What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're doing something you guys have wanted to see for a long time, and this is kind of my return to League Racing. I am now taking part in the AOR Christmas Cup. It is a league, just like a casual league that goes on over the Christmas period, and we're in classic cars that get rotated every round, going to different racetracks, and we have a championship. So it's a fun little format, 25% races, short qualifying, and yeah, we're going to have a bit of a competitive element return to the channel, just kind of dipping my toes into the world of League Racing again. We're on the PC, and we're up against some very, very quick boys in this lobby. Tiametmarduk, who was contending for the title in F1 Esports. We've got Nicholas Longway. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Fabrizio Donoso, he needs no introduction. He got second in the F1 Esports in the first season. Like, he's a rapid driver, and we've got many other quick drivers in here as well. All PC, or quite a few PC Split 1 guys. So we are well and truly going to have our work cut out for us today. Let's get out on circuit. So here we are then, on the iconic Suzuka circuit, driving the iconic McLaren MP4-4. And yeah, we're going to have some fun around this circuit. I've had no practice in the build-up to this. I didn't really feel it necessary. So we'll just have some fun and see what we can muster in this race. You can see straight away, struggling to come to terms with the traction. This is a car I've driven a little bit in online lobbies, not a whole lot, because part of the problem is, in online lobbies, you're always driving the fastest car within a respective era of F1, and so it's always like the 2004 Ferrari or the 1998 McLaren, not the 1988 McLaren, which is what we're driving now. So it will take me a little bit of time to get used to this car, and that's what this qualifying session is all about for me. Just building my pace, I suppose. We're 2.7 seconds off the pace in the middle sector, which is not great. We basically had a spin starting our lap, so that's why we lost probably about a second in the first sector. But as we come up to the line, we are going to set our very first time, which is a 1 minute 42.459, puts us P10 at this stage. So I'm surprised to not be last, to be honest. But we'll eventually work our way up the order to the point where we are pretty competitive. We've taken turn 1 and turn 2 pretty normally, and you can see it's an 8/10 gain straight away, just because of the mistake I made on my banker lap. But anyway, you can see we're flying through the S's here in the first sector. Not a lot of downforce on this thing. This car is very, very deadly. Like, it can throw you into a barrier at the slightest notice. Not only do you have to watch out for the traction when you first initially plant the power down, like it's normal with any car, but then you got to watch out for the turbo lag. Like, once that turbo kicks in, it's like, oh Jesus, it's like you've got double the horsepower, and so you kind of have to lift off the loud pedal a little bit in order to manage that. And when you're pushing in a competitive environment like this, the characteristics of this car really come to the forefront. Like, you really like go, oh, okay, you need to hold back a little bit. As you can see right there, we have unfortunately perished in this qualifying session on only our second lap. So that horrible banker lap that we did first time around is our qualifying lap, and we unfortunately are going to miss out on that vital practice that we need heading into the race. So at the end of the day, it's not last, but it's not great. It's P15. The banker of a 1 minute 42.4 puts us at the back, and heading into the race, we're going to be severely underprepared, but we should have some fun though.
It's all about the race at the end of the day. As we've seen from the qualifying, people really struggle to control the car, and I think it's going to come down to the case of, can you...
Oh no. I like how we have the same reaction. It's like, we both saw the rain, like, this is going to be a problem.
So it comes down to how well you control the car in the dry. It is now wet. It comes down to can you face the right direction for longer?
Have fun out there today. Good luck.
My goodness. If this car wasn't deadly enough in the dry, the wet is gonna turn this little old league race into a Survive Suzuka episode. Here we are on the grid of the Japanese Grand Prix. If I could, I would chuck the Rush music. Lost but one. Lost but one? I can't remember. I used to chuck it on my videos all the time. This is literally the kind of scenario that we need for that inspiration. This is going to be a very special race. Wet to dry against some of the fastest people on the planet in this lobby. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this. But more than anything, I just need to survive the first few laps. I need to reel it in a little bit, calm it down. You can see even on this formation lap, with wet tyres, it's still a struggle. Like, I'm losing the back end quite a bit. A few people spun on the start-finish straight as well. This is no mean feat, negotiating this car around this circuit. We decided to gun it a little bit on the back straight, re-overtaking P16. And just getting a feel of what the grip was like on the wet tyre. Just getting a feel of also, you know, how fast we could go through 130R. Because it's not exactly flat out in the dry. In the wet, we're definitely going to need to shift down a gear or two. But I am equally nervous as what I am excited at the prospect of this race. And I hope that we can make a good spectacle of this. The lights are about to come on now, and we are about to go racing around the Japanese Grand Prix. 5 red lights, and we are, wow, slowly underway for this start. I was cycling through different camera views. We kind of missed the initial getaway, but it's fine. 4 wide at the back there. Jarno Opmeer, I believe, has stormed his way into the lead of this race from Fabrizio Donoso. I can't quite tell. The screen is very small. If I remember, I'll leave a link to the stream in the description if you want to have a full rundown of what goes on for everyone else in this race. But so far, we picked up quite a few positions, up 3 already into P12, trying to put some pressure on XLR8 Iceman as we're just literally tippy-toeing around this first sector. Watch my throttle traces in these opening few laps. You'll see how much I'm holding back, and still we lose the back end. It's all when the turbo kicks in at the higher end of the rev range. It's unbelievable. It gives you so much pace, so much speed, but in these conditions, it literally sends you sideways. So it's very interesting, very tricky, very demanding of your car control. You can either gun for it and try and get the most out of the car, out of the performance, out of the engine, but in doing so, you're literally putting your car at risk. Or you can go the other way and just try and dull the revs as much as you can. Shift up before the turbo kicks in, but then you'll have the smoother power delivery, but maybe you'll come under threat by someone behind who is managing the torque that much better. It's a very fine balance at this stage. You can see we're still intact at this stage, trying to put some pressure on XLR8 Iceman. He's got a bit of a lag indicator, so that's something we'll need to watch out for. The slipstream working pretty well for us as we go around the outside here at 130R on this opening lap. I run a little bit wide there, but we're still side by side as we head into the final chicane. What an iconic corner for this car. Unbelievable. Trying to get a nice exit out of the final corner. Iceman has got a bit of wheel spin, and we take the inside. And with that, P11 in this Grand Prix, P10 has had a spin on the inside barrier, and the safety car has been deployed in this Japanese Grand Prix. So everything is going to be neutralized now. This will be interesting. Let's have a check of the weather and see if a dry spell is coming.
Looks like the weather is going to dry up in about 5 minutes.
Ooh, only 5 minutes. So if we're feeling daring, we could switch onto the dry tires, and I feel like that might be the strategy to go for. So here we go into the pit lane. If this place wasn't bad enough on wet tires, we're about to make things about 10 times worse. Dry tires. But if this works out for us here, we could be in the podium positions come the dry spell.
And we've got actually a few people in the pits. That's Yano in the pits and Lemon as well. So, what are they doing? Are they going on to dries? It seems a bit wet. I don't think they have inters available on these cars.
No, there's two types. There's dry and wet.
So, yeah, they are actually putting on dries. So, yeah, let's show that. Yeah, we've got people going onto the dries now. It looks way too wet for dry tyres, to be fair. Tiametmarduk, Lemon, and Yano now all on dry tyres. And the rain is easing off, so maybe a gamble that could work depending on how quickly it dries now and how long the safety car will stay out. If it comes in this lap, it might be a bit too early.
Yeah, it's going to be a big risk. The wet tyres, weren't going to make it the whole distance. They would have to pit at some point, and I think they've taken a big risk, and I'm not sure it's going to work out for them. I hope people like Yano know what he's doing. He is an esports driver, official esports driver, so he should know what he's doing. But to me, this is still wet. The weather forecast is still technically light rain.
It is still light rain, but it is clearing up, and you can see that kind of transition is already happening. So I feel like by the time that the safety car goes out, it will be the crossover point, if not maybe one lap away from the crossover point, in which case I feel like the gamble to dry tyres will be worth it, and those who stay out in this safety car period are going to throw away a lot of track position potentially. But one thing I am struggling with is just keeping up and catching up to the train of cars.
Yeah, just having a look. Down in Spoon, it's pretty dry, but here on the start-finish straight, it's still fairly wet.
I think you look at Beaker and Ben at the back. Beaker's all over the back of Ben. Okay, yes, it's behind the safety car, but Beaker is getting the run of him, and Yano's not really catching up to the wet runners. But more people pitting for dry tyres. His Beaker thinks it's definitely dry tyre time. He's pitting for another pit stop. So that's an interesting call.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if you're in the car, you obviously have a feel for how the conditions really are. Just by looking at it, it doesn't always help. So obviously when commentating, we only have what we can see.
That's true, and they also don't know when the weather is set to change, so it is quite hard. It also looks a lot different in spectator cam than what it does when you're actually driving. But we're rejoining, or the recent pit stop runners are rejoining onto the circuit for their dry tyres. We jump Hooper. Unfortunately, we don't jump Ulas, who I think qualified in 16th place, or 15th place? No, 16th place in this Grand Prix. So he has jumped us. I feel like probably the optimal time to stop for dry tyres was the lap that these guys did it. I feel like there was a slight overcut on their part as we have a clumsy little mistake into the first Egner. Just absolutely no grip. I tried to push a little bit harder just to try and catch up because the safety car is coming in on this lap, and I realized that time was getting away from us. So it's looking like this strategy isn't exactly working with this guy going really slowly. That's not helping our cause, is it? And we've got an illegal overtake. We have to let this guy go back through. But while all this is happening, the restart is happening. The leaders are getting away on their wet tyres. What a disaster.
You can still see it's very wet here as Crow gets a bit of a slide going on. Coming down the straight, and I don't think he was the only one. Hyper's now having a really bad run. That's going to be Fabrizio having a look around the outside into turn one. And, ooh, that is... who was that? That's Hyper's. He's gone off. He's gone in too deep.
Yeah, so it's all kicking off in this Japanese Grand Prix now. 8 laps left to go in this race, and now it is a complete reset in this race. We will hopefully try and claw our way back towards the front. Now that it's dry, it's not completely dry yet. It's still a drying circuit. There's a lot of pace that we can still extract out of this circuit, potentially. As there's actually still a few people at the front who haven't stopped yet for their dry tyres, so they're still out on wets. Fabrizio Donoso is the leader of the wet tyre runners, and if he leaves it too long, he's going to get, for lack of a better word, undercut by us on dries. So it's a very interesting scenario that is unfolding at this stage. A few people are quite reluctant to switch to the dries. I don't blame them for playing it safe in a car like this, but we're having a look there up the inside of Hooper. into 130R. Such a difficult corner to negotiate in these cars. No downforce and no grip in the track surface just yet. But we are slowly regaining that confidence. Really nice run out of the final corner. Unfortunately, we couldn't really take that anywhere as Hooper had a lot of wheel spin. But we moved to the inside, and this should be P11 for us. There's someone rejoining on the circuit. It's Flash. And thankfully doesn't get in the way. I was worried that he was going to go really tentative into turn 1. I was going to run into the back of him or something, or Hooper was going to retake the position. But thankfully, we snatched that, and we can now set our sights after the top 10 runners. Believe it or not, Fabrizio Donoso, race leader, is the only man left out on circuit on the wet tyres. Everyone else has stopped for dries. The problem with racing classic cars is there's no notification for when DRS gets enabled, because these cars don't have DRS. So you don't get that concrete evidence of when the transition period is. You have to do it by feel, which is interesting. But anyway, we get a nice run out of Spoon Curve, and now we're going to put Flash under pressure heading into 130R. He leaves the inside open, and we're going to take that opportunity up the inside. It's really hard to run side by side through here. Hard to run through there on your own, it seems, as I completely ran out wide, squeezing out Flash. But we are through now for P10, and we can start to set our sights after some of the quicker boys in this lobby. A lot of wheel spin on the exit of the final corner. Flash might get me back here into turn 1. And I gotta say, I was feeling a little bit guilty about his treatment into 130R, that I decided to leave the door open for him to retake the position. He moves up into P9, then he gets a really bad run out of turns 1 and 2. And unfortunately, we binned him off. Yeah, there's no other way around it. He got a bad run, and I was run on his gearbox. I had no time to react, and that was the result. So not intentional, but really unfortunate nonetheless. Yeah, these cars are just so unforgiving. You lose the back end, and someone's right up your ass, and then that's just what happens. So yeah, that's yeah. I'm really sorry about that, but since it is only a bit of fun, we will press on with this race. Next up is XLR8 Iceman, who we were fighting in the earlier stages of the race. We are now up against him again at the closing stages. He goes defensive into turn 1, and again here at turn 2. We get a really nice punchy run out of here. I have to lift off the throttle in order to not run into the back of this guy too. So it seems like downshifting to second and maybe using the torque of the engine is the way to go. You just have to manage it well, and that's probably what the race leaders are doing at this stage. But it's taken me this long to really find a nice rhythm. It definitely helps that the track is drying and the grip is coming up, so we can afford to really stretch these cars a little bit more. We go to the inside now at Spoon Curve, but it's not really an overtaking opportunity, so we have to bide our time for the time being, and we'll hopefully set up the move into 130R or the final chicane. A nice-ish exit out of the Spoon Curve, but we both kind of lost it there. But the slipstream is doing a lot of work for us here as we go to the outside at 130R. This is going to be a very brave move, but I decided to back out of it because this guy was lagging around a little bit, but we'll try and make it work around the outside into the last chicane. It leaves a lot of space, and that is us up into P8 in this Japanese Grand Prix. Now we can set our sights after the front guys. Fabrizio behind us has just joined the train too.
Oh, that's going to be risky. No, thinks better of that. No reason to go for that Vettel-Verstappen incident into Spoon. Was that a bit of a touch from Tiametmarduk there, or did Iceman lose it on the curb? He did have a bit of a wiggle, as I know both come up to 130R. Ben is going to the outside. We've got a nice shot from behind here. Iceman going a bit wide. Ben trying to do the over and under. They're going side by side into the hairpin. But it's Iceman at the moment who's the inside, but Ben manages to hang it around the outside. That switches to the inside for the next left-hander. That's him through. He did get an ideal exit, but so did Iceman. And now Iceman has to... Whoa! What? That's weird.
That is very weird indeed. Fabrizio ghosting inside of the laggy guy, and that's a bit problematic. That's also problematic as well, as we've overstepped the mark at turn 2. I Oh, I can't believe I've done that. I've made too many mistakes in this car today, and that is possibly the one that is going to put an end to our race. Unbelievable. You can see there, the front wing is completely missing, so essentially now we're driving a Formula Ford car. So that is interesting, but as we're just negotiating this first sector, I didn't really notice a lack of downforce. We were still able to go through Degna 1 with a decent amount of speed, 130R. I didn't really feel like I was going any slower than usual, so I thought, hey, why don't we just stay out an extra lap? And then here, you can see that is the remains of our front wing, so basically just the nose. There is essentially no downforce on the car, but surprisingly, it's not making any difference really to the performance. You can see we're up by 2 seconds on this lap, and that's essentially just because of the track evolution. The track is drying. At this point, I'm stepping up the intensity, and it looks like it gets a little bit too hot in the kitchen for me, and we have another spin. So it's just not been my day today in this McLaren MP4-4. We're going to pit now for a new front wing. That tiny little nose cone is going to go in a museum somewhere, and we are going to gun for fastest lap here if we can. Interestingly enough, in this series, I didn't know this until after I watched back the stream and listened to what the commentators had to say. They were saying that whoever finishes, well, it's a reverse grid for the next race, so come the next race, which is in a couple of days' time, I'll be starting on pole position. So, because, yeah, if you're DNF, you're starting at the back, but because I'm finishing last, I'll be on pole, so that'll be an interesting affair come the next race. So keep an eye out for that. But I'm going to see if I've got the pace to run with some of the guys closer towards the front. You can see we're 1.7 seconds up on our first sector time. It was a bit of a frustrating race, to be honest. It was one that just never really clicked for me. Should have put in some practice. This isn't a car that I'm familiar with, so I definitely should have put in the time and effort to get up to speed. Perhaps I'll do that next time. But I've got to say, this is probably the most unforgiving car in F1 2019, and it was very, very difficult conditions, and we got caught out, and I couldn't really get into a rhythm. And when I did start to push, when I got that clear air, that's when the mistake happened. So it was just a very unfortunate set of circumstances. But we'll hopefully bounce back in the next Grand Prix. 2.8 seconds up as we go through 130R and into the last chicane. This will see an end to our race, putting ourselves out of misery. And here we go through the final corner, up to the line. The lap time that we do is like a 1 minute 41.7 or something like that. But it didn't count because I corner cut twice on the lap. But it is P13 in this Japanese Grand Prix. And with that said, that is today's video. If you enjoyed, leave a like. If you're new to my channel, subscribe to see plenty more racing game content. And I'm looking forward to where this championship goes. It is only a very short season, but we should hopefully have some good battles along the way. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, I'll see you next time.